Here. Edge. Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're looking at this, which is the TOPS I.C.E Dagger. Now, if I remember correctly, I first saw this knife on TOPS Instagram page late 2016 going into 2017, and then I saw it in person for the first time at SHOT Show 2017. This knife is designed by Andy Tran, and he also made the TOPS Tahoma field knife. And when I was talking with Craig from TOPS, he was saying you can kind of see the evolution of Andy's knife design as he goes through different stages of life and different things that he's spending his time doing. So the Tahoma field knife is definitely an outdoor knife, camping knife, maybe a survival knife. This knife is definitely, when you look at it, you say, yeah, self-defense. So Andy's now working, if I remember correctly, in Washington State as a National Park Service ranger. And so, yeah, it's got utility purposes. You can cut rope, you can cut wood, other things like that. But it's clearly got a look of self-defense and, kind of a last-ditch option. Thus, ICE, in case of emergency, is what the ICE actually stands for. So as is the case for really the vast majority of TOPS knives, your steel for this is 1095. Your end-to-end length is 7.75 inches. Your blade length is 3 inches, so 4.75 inches for your handle, and then this Karambit ring at the end. One of the things that makes this knife really interesting is your edge. So you've got, two edges, as you can obviously see, and then you can actually see that reflection there at the tip because they left the tip to be thicker. So it has a very strong tip considering the very thin profile of the knife. And you can see that again, as I angle it down, you can see that that tip is definitely thicker, and that is on both sides. You do have G10 for your handles, those nice red liners, and then this Karambit ring at the end. I contacted Andy via Instagram, I think, and messaged him and said, hey, tell me about the ring. And he just said, gives you more options for holding it and how you're gonna actually be able to draw the weapon out as well. I want to talk about some of the grips for this knife now. So just your standard grip, what most people would call a hammer grip, right? So this is what it looks like. You can see that kind of your hilt there, if you will. There's jimping here. There's jimping here. It is very aggressive G10, and so when you hold it like this, I feel like I've got good control of it. I've got large size hands. I would say this is a tiny bit small as far as being, like the perfect size for a person with large size hands. A little bit small for me, but still comfortable enough that I'm like, yes, I would hold on to this and use it. Again, this knife is not designed for hours of whittling and bushcrafting, so I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna be holding this thing and, carving feather sticks or whatever. They give you a ton of texture on it so that, if you're in a situation where you really need to have a strong grasp on that knife, you've got it, because it is, like I said, quite aggressive. That Karambit ring, I've tried a variety of different ways. So I've run my finger in there and then lock my thumb like this and my finger like this. And now I feel like it's got good control, but it does press up against like that right there against my pinky, which doesn't feel super comfortable. So I've got to kind of loosen it up, loosen my grip up a bit to make my pinky actually feel more comfortable in there. I've tried it, with my ring finger, but I just don't know why you would do something like that. And then once you get up to like your middle finger, there's no use for anything like that with this knife. Now I'm going to show you the sheath in 1 minute, but I can imagine with the sheath here on my right side underneath my jacket, I could imagine running my finger into the ring in order to draw the knife out. If I drew the knife out quickly and had to do an aggressive, like kind of swinging cut, I do think that Karambit style ring could be helpful. So, draw it out and go like this to get somebody or something away from me, that could actually work. I wouldn't want to hold it like this and be, having this type of stabbing motion. It just doesn't feel ergonomic or natural to me. Again, however, drawing it out to go quickly like that, I would feel like I would have even more control having my finger through the ring like that, as opposed to just grabbing it like this and taking it out. If you look up close here on the handle, you can see there's a little bit of white. I was actually up in my studio in my house, nobody around, and I had this in the sheath, and I was just basically shaking the sheath like this again and again to see how hard I had to really whip it to get this thing to come flying out. It did come flying out. It actually bounced like off a shelf and then off the wall. That's actually a little bit of probably paint and drywall there that you see as far as that white. That being said, the retention is quite good when it's actually in the sheath. So I've actually EDC'd this knife a couple times. I was EDCing it today when I was actually out in a restaurant. I wasn't wearing this jacket. I was just wearing a gray sweatshirt, not a huge bulky one. And then probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had on a button-down shirt that was untucked, and then I think a sweater or a sweatshirt on top of that. And in both those settings, I wasn't paranoid that it was printing, that somebody could really see it, or that it stood out. So I'll show you right now that with this jacket on, which, as I mentioned in my review of this jacket, it's pretty slim down towards the waist. So this thing would really be, you know, pressing up against the knife, and you'd think it would print, but it's under this, it's not like it's, you know, bulging out on the side and really awkward and obvious. Let's take a look now at actually drawing the knife out. So if I were to lift this up and then go like this, knife comes out. Put it back in the sheath. I could wear it certainly outside if I was out in the woods or I was hiking around and didn't care, you know, that it was completely exposed. The other thing, like I mentioned before, is I could run my finger, my thumb, into the Karambit style ring and then draw it out as well. And then put it back in the third time. I could also run my finger into the ring and then draw it out as well, like that. So 3 ways to draw it out. The retention is quite good. Now let's take a look actually at the sheath up close. So here's a look at your sheath. Now this actually is, it comes standard with a ball and chain and a TOPS whistle, because that comes with all their stuff, to be run as a neck knife. What I have here on the back, I think it's 10 bucks extra, it says on their website, are these straps, and they're the pull the dot straps, so you can only pull them one direction, they won't pull the other direction. What I did is I ran my belt through here, and so it's like belt here, and then this is kind of riding outside the belt. You could invert it and run it inside your waistband, so belt through here and then inside your waistband. The way I was running it today was like this. The way I ran it the last time was like this. Either way, it seemed to be totally fine, no issues. It wasn't, again, the biggest thing for me with a knife is that when I bend over, I stand up, move awkward, you know, in a strange way, does this press up against my shirt or my clothing? So people are like, what the heck is that thing sticking out? It works totally fine. It stays nice and snug up against the body, however you set it up. Quick look at the sheath there. You can see what that looks like. And if you are gonna run it as a neck knife and you have these things on, I would just take them off, because it'll run obviously much more smoothly against your neck. I believe it's the Angry Jackalope on his YouTube channel, on some of his social media outlets, where he has the, he might actually just spin these guys around like so, as I think of it. See if I can do that with this one. Yeah, this one's a little more snug, but I think he might actually run it like as a neck knife, and then he runs like a flashlight through there or something like that. So, you know, you could run it a bunch of different ways. If you want to run it as just strictly a neck knife, I would take these off because it'll be much more low profile. Some people like neck knives, some people don't. For me, wearing this, I could definitely, my preference would be on my right hand side, so I could reach in and grab it. And again, it doesn't print, so I'm not concerned about that. So you saw some footage at the beginning there of this knife in use. I will mention a couple things. First is that because it does have 2 edges that are both sharpened, you want to be aware of what your knife laws are in your state, your town, whatever your municipality is. Make sure that you are able to carry this if you want to carry it. The other thing I'll say is, I was just watching a video the other day from my buddy David from Ultimate Survival Tips, and he was interviewing Matt Graham, who was on Dual Survival and some other shows. And he was talking about being in Africa. I don't remember exactly where, but one of the knife designs that he came out with for this year, he mentioned that, you know, there are a lot of double-edged blades that the people he was working with recently have. And for a lot of us, maybe as Americans, we say like, okay, double-edged means it's a dagger, and so it's for self-defense. But their point was to have one edge that was like razor sharp and the other one that was able to do more woodworking and such. So right now this comes sharp with, you know, but with both edges sharpened, but you may want to just think about that. Have one edge that's super, super sharp, and then the other edge that's a little, you know, that you can use for other tasks. Again, this is not a bushcrafting knife. I'm not going to sit around for hours and carve and cut and make spoons and bowls and things. But if I was in the outdoors and carrying this, yeah, I could cut rope, I could cut things, I could make a couple feather sticks when I got into camp at night. You know, so just be aware of that. There are options out there. Cool looking knife. I just like the overall look and style of it. And now we're going to put it through the paces a little bit more. Let's start off with some basic utility tasks, just cutting some paracord here. Got to be careful remembering that there is another edge on this knife, so when you slide it in, you know, to cut the paracord, don't rub it against your hand, because that'll be really bad news. So obviously no problem with this, as I would expect. Let's double it over here. So let's triple it over and see what happens. three ply. Yep, nice clean cuts too. It's not making a mess of it. I'm gonna just flip the edge around to do the other edge a little bit. Yeah, definitely want to be cautious as you're using this. You're used to having it, you know, the spine of the knife there when you're doing this type of cut. Don't want to slice your hand while you're sliding it in, but this thing definitely does the job with paracord. Here's something a little bit thicker. This is clothesline rope. Lastly here, some utility rope that you can pick up at Lowe's. Oh, just went through one on that. Let's try it again. Try this. Yeah, so the challenge here is just because the blade is not super long, it's going to be a little bit hard. This one got about 95% through. As you can see, it certainly stabbed just fine, pierced well, and then I was able to actually stab and then draw the knife or pull the knife toward myself, and it definitely did some serious slashing too. So yeah, and even down to this lower section, which is a bit more durable, definitely did some serious damage. Look at that, that's a nice one. All you can see is the E now. The I.C. is totally hidden. So, I mean, that's that far in. So putting your thumb through the karambit hole and your finger, I just don't find that useful as far as the direct stabbing method. Just want to go with a straight up, you know, grip like so, hammer grip. Certainly not designed for woodworking, but let's show you that I could do at least a little bit of that. Don't hold it like this, obviously. Hold it like this or like this. This thing's not going to be a feather stick master, but you could say it'll do the job as far as a utility woods knife. It's got the double edge for you. So there's another look, just a little bit more feathering that I did. Certainly could do the job. All right, guys, let's wrap up here. It's been a handful of weeks now. I've EDC'd this. I've tested it out in a variety of different ways. So what are my thoughts on the TOPS I.C.E Dagger? First, let's talk about application or uses. Self-defense, absolutely. It's built with that in mind. In case of emergency, kind of a last-ditch option. A larger version, different style, but kind of some similar overlaps to like the K-Bar TDI knife. So self-defense, definitely. Again, that tip that you can see right there, kind of reinforced. So that's going to be really good. You saw the piercing capability of it when I was stabbing into, you know, a variety of different things. The cardboard box, obviously, but also that hard plastic on the Drano or liquid plumber container, whatever that was, and then definitely the pallets as well. Utility knife just around, yeah, I think if you can carry this, you know, you're allowed to have a fixed blade with 2 edges. Remember, you got to check your laws and your regulations in your municipality. I think that's cool. I really like the idea of having one side that's like razor sharp and the other one that you can use for more general use or maybe more aggressive use. So if you like the style of it and you want a double-edged blade, yeah, utility, I think you could definitely use it in that way. Be careful that you don't try to press on one side when you're pushing. And it is very sharp. It is very sharp, and I can prove that to you if you look right there, because that is a cut from that. When I was cutting through some rope, I got it too close, and as I pulled, I just sliced my hand. So nothing terrible, it didn't bleed too badly, but just be careful because you do have 2 edges on this, not just one. Now, is this a woods knife? It's not a woods knife. It's not built to be that. I don't think I would, you know, if I was heading to the woods, I would pick a Mora over this. I would pick a TOPS Brothers of Bushcraft over this easily. But could you use it in the woods in a variety of different ways if you had this as your only knife? Definitely. I mean, you saw it did feather sticks. You could do some food prep with this if you had to. You could probably, you know, take care of some small game and probably even large game if you had to with this. But, you know, I'm thinking about like if you were fishing and you caught a fish, yeah, you could definitely clean that thing out with this knife. This is the type of thing where, as I think about the design from Andy Tran and the purposes behind it, I think it fits that nicely. In case of emergency, a guy who's out in the woods, you know, doing basically law enforcement out in the back country and in the front country as well, I'm sure for him. This is the type of knife I would want to have on me. If I'm going out to bushcraft for the day, not it. If I'm doing a 3-day survival outing, this is not it. But for that general use in the outdoors, when you have a need that comes up and you have to use a knife for it, this can definitely do the job. Now, one thing you have to think about with really all knives is, do you like the look of it? You know, there's that functionality side, but then there's like, does it appeal to you in any way? I showed this to a buddy of mine, and I was like, cool, huh? And he was like, just doesn't do it for me. He wasn't like, no, here's all the issues, but he was like, I don't like it. For me, I like the look of it. One of my favorite things are those red liners up against the black. I just think that's kind of a cool tone, and I'm noticing as I'm seeing myself on the camera here, black and red, so maybe I just like those color combinations in particular. But if you do like the look of it, I do think it can serve in a variety of different ways. Again, check your laws in your area to make sure you can use a carry knife like this. But yeah, I've enjoyed using it. I'm going to continue to use it, and I think this is going to be a mix of maybe an EDC knife and also a backup knife for me for a variety of different applications. A reminder that G10 is quite aggressive, so if you're looking for a knife that you can do tons of cutting with or tons of detail work for a variety of reasons, this is not the knife. You know, get a bushcraft knife, get a Mora, get a wood carving knife. But I do like it, and yeah, I will be putting this to use a lot more. So once again, this is the I.C.E Dagger from TOPS Knives. I've got links down below if you're interested in finding out more about this knife, and also you can head over to the TOPS website if you want to dig up more of the details and information. Thanks as always for checking out the videos. If you haven't done so already, I really want to encourage you to subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids. Just click that little subscribe button, and then you got to click that little bell as well so that you get notifications when new videos pop up. Some things that may have happened is that you may have subscribed a long time ago, and because you were getting so many notifications from all different types of channels, you may have just said, I want no notifications. And so now you're not hearing when Everyday Tactical Vids has new videos out. So make sure you click that little bell so you will get notifications when videos on things like this and other cool products come out. So I've got a couple other TOPS knives in the mix for future reviews. And I'm always interested to hear what you guys, A, think about this knife, but B, what are other knives, particularly from TOPS, that you want to see reviewed, maybe that haven't been reviewed yet. If you're going to say the El Chete, that is already at the top of my list, so that one's coming soon. I'm looking forward to that one a lot. Totally different knife than this, but that one should be fun to use. All right, guys, don't forget, we're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. And as always, more videos coming soon. Take care.